A very good day to everyone, and welcome to Dr. K's Lecturecast in Anatomy. So, some important cranial nerves we are going to discuss in the upcoming lectures, and the first and foremost is the facial nerve. So, whenever we are going to read about any cranial nerves, we know there are 12 cranial nerves in our body, especially they all emerge from the brain, so we call them as the cranial nerves, 12 pairs of cranial nerves. And whenever we read about any cranial nerve, we have to know what type of nerve it is, whether it's purely sensory or purely motor or mixed nerve. And there are something called as the functional components. So with the functional components, we'll be able to trace out or guess what the function the nerve is going to serve. Let's get into facial nerve. So here you should understand the difference between an efferent and a afferent, and what is special, what is viscera, and what is somatic, and what is general. So remember one thing, general is something which is going to carry some general sensation like pain, touch, temperature, etc. Special is something, the special senses in our body. Touch is one of the sensation, vision, olfaction, hearing, and then taste. And viscera. Viscera is anything related to any system in our body. Namely, one thing we can say is special visceral afferent. So this can be related to, if it is facial nerve, it can be related to the gustatory, that is the taste sensation. So special visceral. What is efferent and what is afferent? Efferent means something from the brain or the associated tissues of the brain is going to carry a effective message to the target organs or glands or the destined part in a body. Afferent means something from the away organs or the away targeted organs are going to send the message to the brain. So you have to know about the difference between an efferent and afferent. As we go into the facial nerve, you'll be able to know how I'm relating these functional components to the target organs. So the important functional components of the facial nerve is are special visceral efferent or branchiomotor. Why we call as branchiomotor? Facial nerve is the nerve of the second branchial arch. So whatever the muscles are going to develop from the second branchial arch, namely the muscles of facial expression, stylohyoid, posterior belly of digastric, all these are going to be supplied by the facial nerve. And then special visceral afferent. Something is going to carry special sensation from a distant organ to the brain, particularly to the nucleus of tractus solitarius. And then general visceral efferent from the brain to the target organs. What it can be? Superior salivatory nucleus and the lacrimatory nucleus. Superior salivatory nucleus means going to help in the salivation of what glands we'll discuss later, and lacrimatory nucleus, so lacrimation, lacrimal gland. And general somatic means in the body, a general sensation, so spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So here we are going discussing about the functional components, from where does the nucleus arise or the message goes to which nucleus, and then here comes the targeted organs. So special visceral efferent is going to supply the muscles of facial expression along with the muscles developing from the second branchial arch. Special visceral afferent taste sensation from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue except the circumvallate papillae. And then general visceral efferent superior salivatory nucleus, so to help in the salivation of submandibular and sublingual salivary glands, and lacrimatory nucleus related to the lacrimal gland, and spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, general somatic afferent from the skin of the auricle. Now, the cranial nerves emerge from different aspects of the brain. Let's talk about the pons and the medulla. The 5, 6, 7, and 8, the trigeminal, abducent, facial, and vestibulocochlear nerve are going to emerge from the pons. 9, 10, 11, and 12th cranial nerves are going to arise or take its origin from the medulla oblongata. And along with the midbrain, we call this as the brain stem. So where does this facial nerve arise? So first let's discuss facial nerve is sensory or motor. It is both sensory and motor. So it is a mixed nerve. So it has a motor root and a sensory root, which is otherwise called as nervus intermedius. Why it is called as nervus intermedius, we'll discuss in a while. And where does it lie? It lies medial to the, this is the midline. So can you see here, this is the vestibulocochlear nerve, and then between the motor root and the vestibulocochlear nerve lies the sensory root of the facial nerve, and then the motor root of the facial nerve. So how does it come out of the cranial cavity? See, this part is called as the intracranial, within the cranium, intracranial course. Can you see here? This is the petrous part of the temporal bone, and it has a meatus or an entry leading to a canal. So internal acoustic meatus. You know the external acoustic meatus. So internally there is a internal acoustic meatus. So this area will be for the brain stem, and medulla oblongata continues as a spinal cord in the through the foramen magnum. So here, as soon as the facial nerve and the vestibulocochlear nerve emerges, they run laterally and forwards and enter into the internal acoustic meatus. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to take a section here and going to view the internal acoustic meatus like a circle. I'm going to take a transverse section. So how does it lies? The two roots enter the internal acoustic meatus along with the vestibulocochlear nerve and the labyrinthine vessels. Can you see here? This is the motor root of the facial nerve, the sensory root intervening between the vestibulocochlear nerve and the motor root. Can you understand why it is called as nervus intermedius now? And these are the labyrinthine vessels. The two roots, somewhere the sensory and motor root should unite. So where do they unite? They unite at the bottom of the internal acoustic meatus and enter the ear. Now the facial nerve can be divided into three parts in the facial canal. Can you see? One part runs laterally and one parts go backwards and the third part comes down straight. When there is a bend from the first part to the second part, there is a prominence. Wherever there is a bend, we call that as genu. So here a ganglion is formed, which we call as geniculate ganglion. Remember this. When we are going to read about the branches of facial nerve, it will be very easy for us to understand. The second part, middle ear has a prominence, which is the promontory. So near the promontory, the nerve to the stapedius is given. And the third part runs down vertically behind. So you should understand, in the internal ear, there is a facial canal where the facial nerve runs. It first runs laterally above the promontory, and there is a bend where it leads to the formation of geniculate ganglion. The second one runs backwards. This part is related to the medial aspect wall of the middle ear. And then it comes down, and through the stylomastoid foramen, it has to exit out. So, there will always be a question asked, how does the facial nerve exit through the cranial cavity? Through the stylomastoid foramen, crosses the lateral side of the base of the styloid process and enters the posteromedial aspect of the parotid gland. We'll discuss along with a diagram. So this is a diagram where it shows, can you see here, nervus intermedius joining the motor root of the facial nerve, and this is the promontory. Can you see here? First bend is directed laterally and then above the promontory and behind the promontory. This is the promontory. Can you see? A nerve to stapedius is given. Okay, what are all the functions we'll be discussing along with the branches. And this is another view. Can you see? Promontory, the nerve to stapedius supplying the, controlling the stapes, the smallest bone in the ear. Malleus, incus and stapes are considered to be the smallest bones in a human body itself. Okay. So, and then the facial nerve comes out, and between the mastoid and the styloid process here, this is the stylomastoid foramen, where the facial nerve emerges out to start the extracranial course. Now, these are the functional components and branches of the facial nerve. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, we'll always be confused of how to draw this facial nerve in an easier manner. So here, just have to start. So this is the brain stem, the midbrain, and this one is the pons. Okay, so here I'm going to draw the vestibulocochlear nerve. We are going to read about the facial nerve, isn't it? So first one is the motor root I have drawn here. This is the sensory root. Okay, nervus intermedius, and once it crosses the internal acoustic meatus, they join. And let's draw a thicker one. Why I am drawing a thicker one is to show there is a bend here, the genu. Okay, so here what you have to do is, in the genu, one nerve is given here, the branch of the facial nerve. Can you see here? So the greater petrosal nerve is given, and then there is one artery here related, the internal carotid artery, and there is a plexus formed around the internal carotid artery. From the plexus, one nerve comes here, and they both together, the greater petrosal and the deep petrosal, together form the nerve of the pterygoid canal. So I am drawing a canal here. So here they both together form the nerve of the pterygoid canal. And where do they relay? They relay in the pterygopalatine ganglion. And from here, through the postganglionic fibers, it goes and supply the lacrimal gland, and also to the palate, and all the mucous glands to the nose, palate, and the paranasal air sinuses, everything it supplies. So let me just label the parts here. So this is the greater petrosal nerve, and then this one is the deep petrosal nerve, and together they form the nerve of the pterygoid canal. Nerve of the pterygoid canal. Okay, and then this one is the lacrimal gland. Okay, see, there is a reference diagram already I've added in the lecture. I'm just trying to show you how to draw it easily. And after it enters the facial canal, we know it gives a branch to the nerve. Can be either in green color or yellow color. Yellow won't be much shown here, so I'm taking the green color. And then we can use brown color for muscle, isn't it? So here it supplies the what muscle? Nerve to the stapedius. So here let's label nerve to stapedius. And then what next nerve it gives is the important one is the chorda tympani. So what happens is the nerve to chorda tympani joins with the lingual nerve, and this lingual nerve suspends one ganglion called as the submandibular ganglion. So you will know what happens here. Again, there is a two glands, submandibular and sublingual salivary glands. And also, chorda tympani has one more function. What is that? it carries taste sensation as well from the, let's divide it, anterior two-thirds of the tongue except the circumvallate papillae. So this one, and here it goes to the sublingual salivary gland and submandibular salivary gland, and then it also carries taste sensation to the from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue except the circumvallate papillae. So this is the chorda tympani. This one is the lingual nerve. And this one is the submandibular ganglion. And these are the submandibular and sublingual salivary glands. Okay. So this is the tongue. So as I draw, if you start drawing, it will be much easier for you to understand. And this one I didn't label. This is the pterygopalatine ganglion. Okay. So the last one, what happens? It has to terminate, right? Any nerve has to terminate. So this nerve, finally, it crosses the base of the styloid process, enters the posteromedial aspect of the what gland? We already read about parotid gland. You would have seen my presentation. So it gives terminal branches. And let me draw the styloid process here. So it crosses the base of the styloid process. And this is the stylomastoid foramen. Base of the styloid process enters the posteromedial aspect of the parotid gland. Okay. And gives 5 branches. Let's draw one more branch here. 5 branches emerging at the anterior border of the parotid gland. So this one is the stylomastoid foramen. This one is the styloid process. And terminal branches. Terminal branches are 5. You know, it is temporal, zygomatic, upper buccal, marginal mandibular, and the cervical. Terminal branches of facial nerve. Okay. So this is the branches given out by the facial nerve. Okay. So you have to remember the genu. At the genu, greater petrosal nerve. It joins with the deep petrosal nerve and forms a nerve of the pterygoid canal. After relaying in the pterygopalatine ganglion, it goes and supply the lacrimal gland and also to the mucosa of the nasopharynx, palate, nose, and the paranasal air sinuses. Nerve to stapedius, it dampens the vibration whenever whenever there is more sound and whenever there is extra vibrations happening on the stapes, this dampens the vibration of the stapes. And then chorda tympani joins with the lingual nerve to supply the secretomotor fibers to the submandibular and the sublingual salivary glands. And also chorda tympani has a role to carry the taste sensations from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue except the circumvallate papilla to the nucleus of tractus solitarius. This is what I call special visceral afferent. And this one is the general visceral efferent. This part helps in the secretion of the lacrimal gland. And then branchiomotor, special visceral efferent. So through the stylomastoid foramen, crosses the base of the styloid process, gives 5 terminal branches which enters through the posteromedial aspect of parotid gland, but emerges in the anterior border of the parotid gland as 5 terminal branches. So this is a diagram which I have taken from Vishram Singh's second edition in the chapter Cranial Nerves, showing all the branches and functional components. Okay, the markings here we'll read in the lesions. So these are the branches and area of distribution. Greater petrosal nerve, nerve to stapedius, and chorda tympani are the branches given in the facial canal. And remember one thing, facial nerve supplies muscles of facial expression, and all these expression and movements of the muscles which are supplied by facial nerve should be coordinate with the sensory innervation as well as the muscles which are important components of head and neck. So they all have to be in a harmonious synchronized pattern so that there is effective coordinated movements. So the communicating branches are with the motor nerves of the first one is the mandibular nerve, third one is glossopharyngeal, and then the sensory nerves of the adjacent territory. We read about the functions here of the other branches of the facial nerve. And then at the exit of the stylomastoid foramen, there are few more branches given: posterior auricular, digastric, and stylohyoid. When you see here, can you see here? Posterior auricular nerve supplies the occipitalis muscle, occipital belly of occipitofrontalis, and the muscle layer of the scalp. You should remember that. And posterior belly of digastric, nerve to posterior belly of digastric, and nerve to stylohyoid. And terminal branches, we read temporal zygomatic, buccal, marginal mandibular, cervical branches. They supply the muscles of the facial expression. And what are the functions? How do we test the facial nerve? At the end of this presentation, I'll be continuing with another presentation of facial nerve part 2, where I'll be discussing again about the clinical testing of the facial nerve and the lesions and what happens with the lesions and the symptoms associated with at various areas. Okay, so frontalis, asking the subject to look up without moving the head. I'll attach one more link so that you can see the testing of facial nerve, how it is done. So there should be horizontal rings over the forehead, and ask the patient or the subject to open their mouth. They should be able to show their teeth and able to dilate and show the teeth. And buccinator, against resistance, should be able to puff the mouth. Buccinator is always called as the whistling muscle, so they should be do the action as in whistling. And orbicularis oculi, how do you test that? Against resistance, that is, ask the subject to close their eyes and try to open their eyes, but still they should be able to tight closure the eyes. The slides and video are created only for academic purposes and kindly take it as a quick review for specific topics, and it is not intended as a guide for any treatments or surgical procedures and clinical interventions. So if you like, give a thumbs up and share it among with your friends for some use, and please press the subscribe bell so that whatever videos I upload in future will be notified to you. Let's continue with the facial nerve part 2 presentation.